Reports of Ashton Daniels planning to enter the transfer portal means we're one step closer to knowing about Auburn's quarterback room for 2026.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay Crosby of thebarnauburn.com and many other places hanging out with us. The defensive back room got a little bit of shakeup with the news of Kayin Lee reportedly planning to enter the transfer portal. Also, we asked for change. We all asked for this, and that's what we're starting to get. We'll touch on that as well. But Ashton Daniels, I mean, anytime there's quarterback chatter, Auburn fans and just sports fans in general can't get enough of it. So Ashton Daniels reports coming out. He's expected to enter the portal when it opens on January 2nd. You cannot enter the portal until January 2nd. These are all reports that folks intend to enter the portal. And of course, anybody that we talk about could, in theory, change their mind. Sure. Not expecting it, but they absolutely could. Ashton Daniels, to me, it's interesting because he came to Auburn to be a backup. And by all indications, he loved Auburn. And now he is expected to enter the transfer portal. There's some chatter out there and some screenshots that were shared at various places of people talking with Ashton, claiming that Golesh didn't really show any sort of desire or eagerness to meet with Ashton Daniels, which is unusual for quarterbacks, right, Lindsay? This is something that I was told as well. And Ashton said, okay, look, I want to be at Auburn, but if I'm not wanted here, if I'm not wanted in a specific role, or you're not even going to talk to me, I mean, obviously that's going to be something that would cause someone to be interested in leaving. I think this makes sense for Ashton.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of view this as this next year of college for him, his final year of college, right? We did preserve his red shirt this season, is kind of bonus, because where he was thought of in his career when he came to Auburn started the season was he is your break glass in case of emergency backup option, right? He was not expected to start. He was really not even expected to factor into the competition. This was really Jackson Arnold's job when he got here. And Arnold played poorly enough. Daniels played well enough where he has a chance to legit be a starting quarterback in college football one more season before you would assume he hangs it up and moves on and goes professional in something other than sports, to steal the quote from the commercial. So while I'm disappointed that it's not at Auburn, because I did like what we saw from Ashton Daniels late in the year, I don't think it's the end of the world. My question here is, if the story of Alex Golesh not being in a hurry to meet with him is true, is it because Auburn has a plan at quarterback that does not involve Ashton Daniels? Or is it something where, kind of like we've seen with some other guys and some of the rumors we've seen, what Ashton Daniels was asking for as far as compensation wasn't in line with what the team wanted to pay him? I'm assuming he came in paid as a veteran backup versus paid as a potential starter. So I'm curious what the answer to that question is. What's the reason?
Yeah. And I mean, there's a screenshot floating around of some fan DMing him or whatever. And at the end of the thing, he's like, it's not my story to tell. I'm not going to share. But then he's like posting a picture of the screenshot on the internet. But
I love those things. It's like, I'm not trying to single a guy out, and then he singles a guy out, or I'm not trying to,
whatever. But like there has been discussion amongst with some of the existing quarterbacks, or I guess guys have already like planning to enter the portal. But I mean, it does sound like there's chatter amongst, okay, guys who this coaching staff really wants to keep, and then guys who they don't. I mean, I don't care what position you are. If the head coach talks to everybody else in your position group and then isn't like super eager to meet with you, and you're a guy who started games at the most important position in sports, for the team he just took over. Like, if that doesn't send the message of, how he truly feels, like that's pretty wild. If that's true.
Yeah. Again, if that's true.
Yeah.
And we've seen this with a couple other positions, and I don't want to get too far ahead of where we're going in the show today, but it is possible that this is just a rebalancing of the distribution of money situation, right? That they were, and we see this, I keep making these parallels, and it's because it's my wheelhouse and it's what I know. We've seen this in MLB free agency, where a team knows that one of their free agents has these expectations for his next contract, and they know they're not going to come close to it. And so they just don't even bother going through the formality of, we're going to meet with you and make an offer that we know is nowhere in the stratosphere of what you're expecting to get or wanting to receive. It's possible that they were aware, Alex Golesh was aware, he wants X amount, and we were going to pay him X minus, whatever. And it's like, we don't,
and Ashton's a guy that might have taken it.
Yeah, that's
he's the guy that might have taken it.
It's hard to know.
So once again, like, if this screenshot of a conversation between Ashton and a fan is true, and he didn't even meet with him, that's where I'm like, why not? Like, it's not even worth meeting. So I don't know. Take all that for what it's worth, and it's just pure speculation and internet points by the fan. I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the hypotheticals now with this. So if you make Deuce Knight the priority, you keep Deuce Knight, and you bring in Byrum Brown, and then you've got Brush, the true freshman, coming in.
Yeah.
Is that enough? I don't think it's enough in an ideal situation, but I think it's enough in this 2026 situation where this coaching staff is already going to be rushed because of the timing of the sports calendar. And, if you can find a guy who wants to come in and be a backup and just be a depth piece and help run practice for an SEC program, great. If that guy falls in your lap, if not, just use walk-ons that you have on campus and maybe elevate a guy, give him a scholarship, whatever. But to me, like, I'm okay if that's the situation you're in, because if you have two quarterbacks that get hurt, well, let's assume it's transfer quarterback, potential starter, which I think will be Byrum Brown, and then Deuce Knight. Like, if both of those guys go down in this awful scenario that we're talking about, like, you're probably going to be behind the eight ball anyway. So yeah.
It's very difficult to be prepared.
Okay if that's how the quarterback room shapes out.
Yeah, it's very difficult to have the requisite depth to cover two losses at the most important position on the field. And this is a conversation. It's like, you can spend money and be ready for that scenario. You can find a guy to be your third quarterback and know he's not going to start, but is that a good use of resources? And I think probably that's not. Yeah, it's, and I'm going to do it again. Alex, I talked to Atlanta Braves GM Alex Golesh a week and a half ago in a press conference, and he talked about the fact that Braves lost all 5 opening day rotation guys at the same time on the 60-day IL. And he was like, you can't build depth for that scenario, right? You can't have enough starting caliber starters to replace 5 guys at the same position all being hurt. I kind of feel like that's where you are with quarterback in the modern NIL and payment era of college football. You can't pay enough, or you can't responsibly devote enough money to that position to cover 2 guys getting hurt and being gone. So if that's it, if you get down to your third string quarterback, odds are you're not going to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish in the season anyway. So it doesn't really matter if you have a third guy or not. If you get to that point, the season's probably already lost.
Yeah. Now you need bodies to run practice and all of that. Yeah. But yeah, as far as like with what quarterbacks reportedly cost, like I'm with you. I don't think that makes sense. And the way this regime is already treating payment by all accounts and reports differently. We all asked for change in the Auburn football program. We're getting change, and I think we need to react accordingly. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Aura Frames. Can you imagine a better gift than Aura Frames? The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And boy, is it we're getting up to the wire here. If you're wanting to give something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories, because Aura is not your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That is auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Of course, terms and conditions apply. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Kia Autosport Columbus. Can you imagine being in the market for a vehicle in the Auburn Opelika area, maybe even around Atlanta, and not at least taking a look at what our friends at Kia Autosport Columbus have, either on their website, which you can browse their full inventory and start saving today at KiaAutosportColumbus.com, or Lindsay, right off of Whittlesey Boulevard in Columbus, Georgia. If you walk into there and say, hey, heard about you guys on Locked on Auburn, you save $500 right then and there.
That may be, and I say this all the time, that may be by dollar amount the greatest discount any Locked On show has ever given their listeners.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot for
$500.
sure. Yeah, go see them. Also ask them about, Kia's, tires for life and all of that. So KiaAutosportColumbus.com. Go check them out. You'll be glad you did. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We all ask for change. Mm-hmm. We ask for a radical shift from the losing culture that we have run into over the last few seasons, to where we let the players run everything. The more and more people I talk to, the more and more stories I hear about how ridiculous some of these deals were that are now on their way out or have been renegotiated. And I think obviously when you shock the system, it's going to be bad. As far as people are going to leave, because we're seeing these guys enter the portal now that have essentially held the previous coaching staff hostage in different moments, saying, I'm going to leave if you don't pay me. And the previous regime said, yeah, okay, we'll just pay you. Alex Golesh is saying, no, we know what you're worth. And if you think you can get more than that, cool. See you later. Best of luck wherever you go, as long as it's not against somebody that we play.
Yeah.
So obviously yesterday, two guys left, Ashton Daniels, Kayin Lee. We'll talk about Kayin in a second. Alex Golesh, who does not post much. He is not the social media guy, which is good, which I'm fine with. But he did post on his story on Instagram yesterday a quote by Admiral Grace Hopper. The quote, the most dangerous phrase in our language is, we've always done it this way. And boy, I bet he's being met with a bunch of objections, and whether it's the players, whether it's staffers that are carryover as far as, maybe more of like ops kind of go. Mm-hmm. I bet he's running into this over and over and over again. And this is his message. Once again, he does not post much. He does not. I'm actually not confident he's posted at all since he's been the head coach, unless it's been just a collab with Auburn football and they've done it for him, which is fine. I'm just saying that the fact that he's putting this up there means he's saying like, hey guys, things are changing. Things are different at Auburn, because what we've been doing has resulted in what? Losing over and over and over. Finding new ways to lose week by week. We're not doing that anymore. And I think that's great.
Yeah, it is. To steal a phrase from Daryl, two things can be true at once. It is hard to see these guys leave. Some of these guys who you were pulling for through the recruitment process, you landed them, you were tantalized by their talent early in their careers.
Yeah, no, I had a meltdown when Jay Crawford left. It was bad.
See,
worst thing I've ever put on the internet. Still embarrassed by it. Yeah.
But at the same time, you didn't get the results from them. So there was a disconnect. And we clearly felt that the biggest disconnect was the coaching staff that was handling them because we fired those guys. But Golesh has, to me, earned the benefit of the doubt because he's built programs. He took a losing USF team and immediately turned them around into a winning USF team. And they did it in the transfer portal era. So they did it by paying players and doing all of that stuff. So I do feel like some of these guys did approach this the right way. We have heard about some of the incentives available in some of these deals.
Yeah.
There's some guaranteed money. There's incentives. And it's, hey, if you are truly the player that you believe you are, you will make that money. And a little bit of that is you have to trust us to use you the right way and put you in the right situations. But if you truly do think you are that good, you will earn that money at the end of the day. Some of the guys who have been receiving that money and we've not gotten the performance, they do have something to blame here. It's not solely on Hugh Freeze and his former staff. And so we're in essence pushing back and we're saying, no, we have too many needs to continue to pay you what you were making because it was not working. And I do think that the big question for us now is, do they effectively reallocate that money? Right? And the hard part is the common fan, which I like to think sometimes I speak for on the show, the common fan doesn't know the amounts. Right? We don't know how much X or Y we're making, but we know that certain positions are expensive. Quarterbacks are expensive. Starting caliber offensive linemen, especially tackles, they're very expensive. Number one wide receivers are expensive. Lockdown corners are expensive. Pass rushers, So I don't know if we can fully evaluate the decisions until we know what the roster looks like after the portal closes. But based on the information we have now, it's hard to argue that anybody who left was arguably earning the money that they made and asking for the pay raise. And if they do get more somewhere else, then hey, we were wrong. But you shared a great quote from a Florida, somebody who covers Florida, about how the money situation for a lot of these guys is not going to be better than they thought it was when they leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up real quick because I did think that was
prescient is what I'm going to call it.
Yeah, interesting. Relevant. Give me 2 more seconds. If we don't get there, we don't get there. Got there. Yeah, Hal Lewis tweeted this. Player asks for $750K. Team offers $300K. Players enter the portal. Teams offer him $250K. Player burns bridges and is too embarrassed to return to his team, so he goes elsewhere. Did his team do anything wrong that caused them to lose him? It's a very frequent occurrence. Yeah. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I do personally have a theory that I'm developing about recruiting and things like that it's typically, unlike in a lot of professional sports, it's typically going to be cheaper to replace a player in the portal than it's going to be to retain a highly regarded recruit that you signed as a high schooler. And that's not true every time, but my theory is often it's going to be because the rules of supply and demand as a recruit are different than they are in the portal. And so unless it's one of the best guys at his position, right, you're probably going to get better production or equivalent production for a lower price in the portal. And that's not how it works in NFL free agency or MLB free agency or NBA free agency, but that's how it's going to work in college football right now.
Yeah, well, everything being a 1-year deal is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's
like a lot of people are hating NIL. I actually think this is more of a transfer portal issue than it is an NIL issue. But the fact that they both kind of dropped at the same time and we're still figuring it out, that's not ideal.
Yeah, and I do think something else that comes up here too is the tampering that is very prevalent in college football. We all know what happens. We're all aware of it. And I do think a lot of these players are told when they're tampered with, they're given ideas of numbers, whether it's by an agent or by somebody who's reaching out on behalf of their school, that ends up not happening. But that becomes the basis of their information to negotiate a pay raise with their current school. They're told, hey, this school wants to pay you $1 million. when in reality, nobody's paying a middle linebacker $1 million. Right.
Yeah. Or, maybe it's $500,000 in rev share or whatever, which would be a lot.
Yeah.
And then, you get NIL opportunities with whatever company, but like the school in theory is not allowed to like broker that, but that's what's happening in other places, which is, and I mean, I'm sure it's happening here too. So I don't know. The defensive back room took a hit with Kayin Lee. This one I'm not surprised about. And I actually think this one makes more sense than most of the other ones. And I'll explain why in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And right now, NFL Sundays move fast. We just saw that with the crazy day of action yesterday. One big play, suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. With FanDuel, you can place bets. I just read that. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. So you want to be right in the middle of the action with our friends at FanDuel this season. Visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Kayin Lee reportedly planning to enter the portal. Yes, no one has officially entered the portal. You cannot do that until January 2nd. Yes, these players can change their mind. Yes, if somebody enters the portal, they can come back. Do I think it's likely that these guys do? No, I don't, but it could happen. Absolutely could happen. Kayin Lee, I'm actually a little bit surprised by some of the early reports that said that he was a priority. And I don't know if that was because they thought what he was asking for matched where they want their #1 corner to be. Mm-hmm. But my pushback to that is I don't think you pay Kayin Lee and bring Kayin Lee in to be your #1 corner. I think Lee is a #2 corner, and I think he's a solid #2 corner. And yes, I know Auburn fans say he got burned a lot. Yeah, he's a corner. College corners get burned a lot. It's tough. Mm-hmm. It's tough to do that, especially when the other guy that was on, the opposite side of him, Jay Crawford, is locked down. You have to attack Kayin Lee, and you have to game plan for him. And that's how the position of corner works. I hate to break it to you, but you're never going to have a corner that allows, like a 30% completion percentage. That'd be insane. That'd be absolutely insane. And they'd be one of the best corners of all time. So I think context is part of this, but also this is a guy that we heard kind of tempt, say, hey, I'm flirting with going to the portal. Mm-hmm. What kind of deal can we get together? And so this one is not surprising to me at all. And I think if you don't have a guy like Jay Crawford, I don't think it makes sense to have a guy like Kayin Lee.
Yeah, I could see, and from a certain perspective, you want your corners to act like this, right? He believes he's a #1 corner. That's the kind of competence you need to play cornerback.
Sure.
But to your point, it really doesn't feel like he actually was. And PFF just kind of has all of Auburn's corners really just grouped into the same rough score, kind of all around the same area. So there was no clear #1. From a target perspective, he was the most targeted corner on Auburn's roster as the #2.
Telling. That's telling.
That's going to be the guy they go after. Now, he also allowed the most completions. It was close, but he was the most targeted. And I do feel like Auburn's kind of underrated competency that they've had in the last decade plus. We all think of Auburn as great running games, great running backs come out of here. But they've done a really good job of identifying defensive back talent, cornerback talent. You've done a great job of spotting those guys early and giving all of us a heads up. Hey, this dude's going to be somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm less worried about losing 2 corners than I normally would be. And granted, it's a new coaching staff, but even over multiple coaching staffs, we've been very good at identifying college corners and getting quality guys out there, even if we didn't think we had a good number 2 entering the season. So it sucks. I hate it. The defensive back room is losing a lot of guys. It's not as terrifying to me as it would normally be to tell me you lost 2 guys at the same position.
Yeah, I think Rashawn Pleasant is a guy you want to hold on to, and then we'll see what happens with some of these others. I mean, Kinsley Faustin had moments.
Oh,
I really like Blake Woodby a ton.
Speaking of Rashawn Pleasant, do you know who opposing quarterbacks had the lowest completion percentage throwing at in Auburn secondary last year?
Was it Rashawn?
It was Rashawn Pleasant. He was the only guy that quarterbacks completed less than 50% of their passes when they targeted him. The only one.
That's incredible. That's great. That's great. Does that have the average like yards per catch allowed?
It has average depth of target.
Where was Rashawn's?
13.7, which was the second deepest on the field. So when they went after him, they were throwing it down the field.
Whose was highest?
Kayin Lee. Kayin Lee's average target was 14.5 yards downfield. He was the only guy above 14.
Yeah.
I'm
thinking back to like a lot of the time I would have guessed Kayin. So
yeah, it was Kayin. Opposing quarterbacks had a NFL completion percentage of 54.2 against Rashawn Pleasant last year.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So Pleasant came on. He was, got better as the year went on. And I mean, I think this is advantageous that DJ Durkin is going to be in everybody's ear that's negotiating this as far as his true thoughts on these guys too. So
having that continuity really helps with these negotiations because he can tell you who is likely overpaid. He can also give you the testimony of when the change happened, who stepped up and was a leader in that room during the uncertainty of the coaching change.
Yeah, and also just culturally, like who didn't miss workouts, who can do more than one thing, all that stuff.
So, who earned their money off the field.
That's right. That's right. Which Golesh is going to care a ton about, which he should. He should. Lindsay Crosby, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
I'm on social media at Crosby Baseball. Ton of Braves content because of their signings. BravesToday.com, the Braves Today podcast. It's both the newsletter and a podcast. Are doing great. All the Auburn baseball content. We're bringing back the Barn Baseball Show pretty soon. TheBarnAuburn.com.
Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.